3 formula. So he was using 2.2, 2 by 2, 4-point integration formula for his problem. And that was a proper formula for a rectangular element. He was using and he was not getting result. And in those days, see, all these things used to be specified through card. I am using 2 by 2. That means we used to give number of gas points, 4, by punching a card by 4, or punching a card by 2, 2 by 2, 2 in X direction, 2 in Y direction. What happened one day? This boy, the output came, because an output in those days was not instantaneous. It used to come, you give the job today, and then output will come tomorrow, because computers were slow. Tomorrow printout will come, and then you will realize that this mistake you have done, that mistake you have done. So he got the output one day, and he found that for even thin plate, he's getting reasonable result. Reasonable result. So, and then he checked his data. He found that yes, there is a small error which he has committed. Instead of giving 2 by 2 integration formula, he had given 1 by 1, only 1 point integration. By mistake that day, by mistake, instead of 2, he had punched only 1. Again he checked. Again he got the same result, which was reasonable, means displacements were coming all right. And with 2 point, it was coming very stiff, 10 to the power of minus 20. With 1 point, he was getting 1 centimeter, which was expected. Then he went to Zinkiewicz. He said, sir, this is what is happening. I don't know, I am making a mistake. And still I am getting a result which is reasonable. And I have tested it in last 2 days. And I found out that this is what is happening. So they tested it, this 1, by reducing the number of integration by 1 on number of problems. And they found every time they got good results. So Zinkiewicz, as usual, was dynamic, very, quick. He said, let us call it reduced uniform reduced integration formula. If people should use, instead of exact integration formula, they should use reduced integration formula for thin beams, thin plates, thin cells. And he wrote a paper also. Immediately, all the 3 people joined together and they wrote a paper describing number of examples that they had solved. It was only a numerical experiment, no theory. And this method started, it was 1974-73. This paper is there. If you read Zinkiewicz book, it is there at the back. Please see the reduced integration formula. And others also started this, and they always used to say, I have used reduced integration. How did you get the result? I have used reduced integration for thin. For thick, you can use exact integration, but for thin, by the same formula, without understanding what is happening inside. So it became a black box or a trick. Many people called it trick, T-R-I-C-K, trick. If people are using trick in order to get some result, that is what happened. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So trick, it became a trick. What method are you using? How are you integrating your integrals for K and F? F was not important. F was okay. Only K. What is the integral you are using? Oh, people said, oh, I'm using reduced integration. reduced integration, what was the exact integration required? Sir, it was required 3 by 3, but I am using 2 by 2. Class formula. And number of papers came. So it became order of the day. It became order of the day. Till one day in 1978, there is a person called Hughes, T.J. Thomas, T.J.R. Thomas J. R. Hughes, T.J.R. Hughes, H-U-G-H-E-S, Hughes. He is a very renowned person in finite element. He did his PhD from Berkeley, and then now he is a professor at University of Texas at Austin. Of course, he must be about to retire or must have retired. So Hughes went into what is happening, and he found that what is happening is this. The bending part of the energy actually required only one point of integration if it is a linear element, bending part of energy. And shear part actually required, because shear part was, the polynomial degree was more for shear part. Bending part, it was a lower polynomial. So you required a lesser formula, 1 point. For the shear part, you required a more exact formula, that is 2 by 2. And why you required? Because due to shear energy normally when you reduce the thickness, your shear energy should reduce. But with finite element of this linear element, shear energy part was increasing. It was shooting up fictitiously. So because of the discretization, because of we have taken a linear element, a bilinear element, bending energy was remaining here only. Shear energy, by reducing the thickness, used to become 10 times of bending energy. Actually, it should reduce by 10 times instead of increasing. And when people were using this reduced integration, anyway required only 1 point integration for the bending part. For the shear part, we required actually 2 point integration. But then that was integrated approximately by using a lower order formula, that is 1 point. So it is called suppression technique. That energy was suppressed by using a integration formula that was approximate for it. So it is called suppression. So he said, he wrote a paper saying that the cause of all this is the fictitious shear energy that is occurring in the formulation because of the lower degree of polynomial that we have used for the finite element formulation, that is linear element or bilinear element. And it is this reduced integration is lowering the shear energy, and that is why we are getting result. And if you are doing exactly integration, then shear energy is very high. There your energy becomes very high, and therefore you are getting your displacement very less. So then it became clear that the cause was this. That means it is the fictitious shear energy which is the cause. So you have to have a suppression technique on shear energy only. So now we know what is the cause, and therefore we integrate bending energy exactly and shear energy approximately by a lower order formula, which is a Gauss formula, so that it is integrated approximately. So this is the. So now instead of uniform, so now we have to reduce. So it was no longer a reduced integration formula. So we have to now, we invented a new phrase, uniform reduce. One is became, so reduce became uniform reduce. And second one became selective integration. So you have to integrate this energy selectively, depending upon which one is causing problem. So if bending energy is not causing problem, integrate it properly. Shear energy is causing problem, integrate it approximately, so it is selective integration. So nowadays we use selective integration technique. Selective integration for numerical integration of these K matrix. So this is the history of locking. So now locking was circumvented, and now locking is not an issue, but we understand why locking occurs. And so this is what is about locking. Now, there is another thing that happens. See, all these problems are, the research is like this. You try to solve one problem and then another problem develops. So this is, you have to solve it. You have to go on. That is how we keep yourself busy. Otherwise, there will be no research problem. Dr. Kumari? Yes, then there, how will you produce, how will we have so many PhD students, you know, if everything is, there is no issue. So this is what happened. So research is a very, once you do research, you have to go on creating problem. I mean, don't create problem unnecessarily, but then this got created automatically. Then another thing was found that the deformation of the body must have both rigid body modes as well as the deformable modes. When you deform a body, there will be some portion which will have a, which will move as a rigid body, and some portion, you know, there will also be associated with deformation. Deformation means change in curvature, change in, you know, everything. Now it happened, realize, and rigid body modes for each element is equal to the number of degrees of freedom per node. Number of what is there, that is the minimum, that is the maximum rigid body modes they have. For example, a 4 degree of two element, you know, will have a certain rigid body modes. Now it was found that by uniform reduced integration, the rigid body modes increased. So that also was another issue. And that used to cause problem in certain boundary condition, because if there is certain boundary condition, for example, point supported plate, just on a 4 corner, if you support a plate only with W equal to 0 and load it on the top and use a square element or a rectangular element, you will not get result. What used to happen, these rigid body modes used to cause problem. So there used to be this issue also. For some boundary conditions, we were not getting results. And this was reported in literature. And for some time there was issue. And then it was found that yes, these rigid body modes are creating problem. And it is happening because of uniform reduced integration. So one should use now selective integration technique properly in order to avoid this. But still there are some issues, but this is what is happening. So this is the current status of finite element. Not many people are working now on plates and shells these days. Most of the research nowadays is on materials. People are doing going at nano and micro level. So from structures, people have forgotten structures. They are no longer analyzing plates, shells, and which are micro. They are going into the design of new materials and things like that. So everything has become nano. This is the current status. I will now, based upon whatever I have told you so far, I will give you a simple example, which I have done it myself in order to be confident. I did it way back in, when I was in Swansea, way back in 1979 or 82. So one day, all these things were going on in those days. So I tested myself. I said, let me see So I took a cantilever beam with a point load, thickness H, length L. I said, let me try this problem. Now, please do not see the first column for the time being. First column, do not see. So for a deep beam, it was a deep beam. Deep beam means H by L was very small. H by L was 1 by 5. I did it for a deep beam. So 2-point integration, 2-point quadrature, 2-point Gauss point was needed in order to integrate the quantities exactly. So I got solutions like this. With one element, I got this, 2 elements like this, 3 elements like this. I think 8. I did 2, 4, 8, 16. Up to 16 I have got. I think I went up to also 32 and 64, which are not listed here later on. So it was about 9. And exact solution was 1. Exact solution for this, that means I was expecting a 1. So close, that means convergence was coming. Convergence was coming, but slowly, it was coming. So it was very good. That means for 16 element, I was getting near 1. Now the same problem, you come to first column. Same problem, I reduce the number of point of integration. I now use approximate integration formula, uniform. 1-point integration formula on the sphere, and then I found it is 0.7, right? With one element 0.7, so it was rate of convergence was much faster, and with 16 element it became 0.99. So this result is always considered good. So with the approximate, the rate of convergence became improved, and so this was the status. Now do it now. Let us go to the next problem. Same problem. I make it a thin. Thin cantilever beam. I reduce the thickness to 1 by 100. Now you see the result. Same problem. I just reduced the thickness and made it 1 by 100 instead of 1 by 5. Now you see the kind of result that I am getting. With one element, 10 to the power minus 4, 2 elements, something improved, but very slowly, 10 to the power minus 4, 10 to the power minus 3, minus 3. It's very slow convergence and it is locked. This is called locking. With 16 element also, my solutions are coming 0.5 into 10 to the power minus 3, very less. With exact integration, everything as per rules. Now this diagram is this table is very important and very instructive. See, this is called locking. What is locking? You are doing everything 100% exactly, and my solution is changing like this. And you are expecting solution 1. My exact solution was 1, but then I am 10 to the power minus 3. Very bad. Then I did, now you see the first column. I now did approximate integration. Instead of 2-point integration, I use 1-point integration, only in the center of the element, Gauss point. And see, dramatic change. My solutions improved like anything. And I'm getting 1, close to 1, my solution with 16 elements. And rate of convergence also has improved, everything. So this is called locking and reduced integration, concept of reduced integration. So you will get here locking. If you want to avoid locking, do this on shear part, on shear energy. Why does this happen? Why does this locking phenomena occur? So I took the simple beam element, Timoshenko beam element. I did a 2-noded Timoshenko beam element, 2-node Timoshenko beam element. I found out by derivation, which you can do it yourself. Please do it yourself also. This can be done very simply, analytically, with hand. With hand you can do it. Two-noded Timoshenko beam element. KB, bending stiffness matrix, will be given by this. And the shear stiffness matrix is given by this. Second part. Then I found out was there are so many. Bending is only second row and fourth column. Second row, fourth row, and then rest all are 0. And here they are all GH. Of course, dimensions are different. It is EI. E into I, H to the power 4. This is only H. So H to the power 4 is here. I means, yes, H to the power 4 by 12. So here there is a cubic term difference is there. But then anyway, you see here. Then I took a ratio of this element 2 and 2 L by 3. GH L by 3 and EI 1 by L. EI by L and GH into L by 3. I took the ratio, see KS by KB. Order, only to find out order. I get L by H whole square. L by H whole square. Thickness is H, L is the length. So normally L will be more and H will be small. So it will be very large here because it is L by H whole square. So it will, so 1 by 2 will become 4, 8 will become 64. So shear energy, that means shear stiffness divided by bending energy, will become 16 times or 64 times as thickness reduces, which should be otherwise. Actually, shear energy should reduce as thickness reduces. Thickness reduces, but here it is L by H whole square, not H by L whole square. So this is the main cause. And then if your D is, these are the two-noded displacement, your energy is given by this. And energy also I have found out here. Energy, total discrete energy and total bending energy and discrete energy. You take the ratio of shear energy, bending energy, again that is also L by H whole square, which is just the reverse. It is contradictory. And so actually US should reduce as L by H becomes what? L by H, physics says that as L by H increases, that means thickness is reducing, shear energy, thickness is, see, keeping L constant. As H is reducing, L by H is changing, is going to infinity, your shear energy should tend to 0. But what is happening? It is the other way. So therefore, and then it is becoming shear energy is tending to the other way, and because your energy is totally should be bending energy, shear energy should be almost 0. So it is happening because of the linear element. So this is, so now we have to use selective reduced integration, and that is the main thing that you should get it. Then there is another element, a plate element. Coming to plate element. Now new studies started around 1974, and number of people worked on this. So we call one element which is very popular, which is called serendipity, means 8 noded on the edges. So the first one is serendipity. It is not a Lagrangian element. And 9A means 3 nodes in each side, 3 nodes, 3 rows, 3 columns. So this is called Lagrange element. This is called serendipity. There is no node in the center. Such only nodes are there on the periphery. So it was found that this behavior of this serendipity, which was very popular until 1978, was erratic. It will give some good result. Convergence criteria are also erratic. sometimes it will converge and then suddenly diverge. So there are a lot of literature that is available. Sometimes it will converge and then diverge. So there was no surety of good result with this element. This was mostly reliable. 9-node became, everything reliable. So integration used was here. Integration used here was 3 by 3. It needed 3 by 3 for bending and 2 by 2 for shear. So this was mostly reliable. But only in few cases, it was found that it was not giving result for some boundary condition because of this spurious rigid body mode, spurious zero energy that is called. So because this element has got one spurious energy mode, so some dangerous, some only in specific cases, it was a problematic. While this had a spurious, this one, which one? 2 by 2, if you do 2 by 2 integration, that means uniform integration, you will find that it has a spurious mode, that is, but it is non-communicate. As number of elements increase, it will be, it was not affecting. So that way it was okay. But the result was unreliable because the convergence rate was not proper. Just a minute, please, because I will close my window. There is a lot of rain which is happening in Bombay. So it is making a lot of noise. So I think there is a paper in 1978 which I have given. Yes, 1978. Hughes and Cohen, they wrote a paper in Computers and Structures, and they found that this element, because each node had 3 degrees of freedom, W, theta x, theta y, for 2 dimensions, 3 degrees of freedom. So 3 into 9, 27, 3 into 8, 24 degrees of freedom element, 27 degrees of freedom. So this had, because of this, there was one issue here because of this zero energy mode. They tried out number of combination and they found that if they use only here, only W serendipity means for this element W is serendipity, means only on 8 nodes. You are interpolating only on the periphery. W is serendipity. And theta x, theta y is Lagrange. Actually, it has shifted. So actually, it is this. For this one, this line, it should just go, serendipity. So this should come here. So this middle one. So you use, so this degree of freedom here is Lagrange. Lagrange means here only theta x. There is no W here degree of freedom. 1 degree of freedom was reduced. Displacement, transverse displacement degree of freedom is not there. So it is a 26 degree of freedom. And it is a combination of Lagrange and serendipity. Combination. Because W is not defined here. Only 2 rotations are defined here. And then he called this a combination of 2 elements, heterosis. Heterosis means by combining two species, if you can get a new species. In biology, this word is very popular. In biology, you can get a new gene by a combination of 2 genes and things like that, So he used the word heterosis, and he found that heterosis element gives you is safest element, very strong and safest element which can be used in all seasons without any problem. So actually, our paper which I told you about with T.S. Butalia, myself, and V.D. Dixit, that is using heterosis element. We should use now heterosis element, and if not heterosis, at least only Lagrange, not serendipity. Serendipity behavior is very erratic, but it is there in the literature. Many people are still using. Now what to do? So this is, anyway, don't worry about this. We have also done this for shells. This concept of heterosis, I think in one of our papers we did it, and it has worked very well. So we have developed a heterosis element for shells, and I think this gives you a complete overview. Here, see here, for example, here there are 5 degrees of freedom in shells, and now in this center node, W is not defined. So then it is called, so this has worked better. Anyway, this concept is, so as far as plate is concerned, beam, plate and shell is concerned, I have given you an overview of what is existing today and what is the state of art and what element you should use, what is locking, how it should, what is shear correction factor. Shear correction factor is because of rectangular nature of the shear stress distribution through beam, not due to locking. Locking is a different phenomena that occurs because of linear element that we use and because fictitiously shear energy increases as thickness is reduced, which is just the opposite of physics. So it defies physics. Actually, it defies physics. Physics must not be defied. So what we do in order to get result, we suppress the shear energy in a thin case, suppress. And one of the ways of suppressing shear energy is using reduced integration on that part while integrating. So I will stop here as far as this part is concerned. Okay. And if you have any question, but then I will take some few minutes to give you some more physics about finite element method. I will go back to where I stopped yesterday. Okay. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Interesting question.
What is the interesting question? Is there any question by the people who are attending?
Dear participant, do you have any question in the first session and the second session? Then you can ask now.
In the meantime, I will go back to my old file and let me see how to go about it. This is already full screen. So now I can go back. Full screen and I can change means what is to be done. I want to go to, so
Sir, Poonam Kumari ma'am have one doubt regarding this session.
हाँ बताइए ना. Poonam Kumar. Oh yes, from IIT Guwahati.
Sir, thank you very much for it.
How are you, Poonam? Poonam,
I'm fine, sir. I'm fine.
Tell me, what is your question?
First of all, thank you very much, sir, for giving a very thoughtful talk. Because I have not attended any finite element course, so this time I think I should attend this lecture.
Okay.
I just want to know that as you discussed very nicely that whether the different elements and their limitations. So generally that finite element was successfully used for the large structure, macro structures. But in the nano, they are also using. So do you have any comment that because the size effect matters. The sizes are small. So in that case, what is your suggestion that we should go for the nano, or we should, I mean, finite element in the nano scale level or something else?
See, nano, let me tell you frankly, I have no experience of nano mechanics. I'm seeing, see, the first set of results that was done for nano, that is using continuum mechanics, using continuum mechanics for solving problems in nano scale, nano scale, small scale, was totally wrong, because physics is quite different. Okay. At a small scale, the behavior of the whatever small size structure is altogether different. It is not governed by Newtonian mechanics. It is not governed by Newtonian mechanics, but you have to go to quantum mechanics. So if you see a book has been written by Professor T.J.R. Hughes now, not T.J.R. Hughes, by Tinsley Oden, about nanomechanics in engineering, nanomechanics. So what I'm saying, you have to use, first of all, continuum mechanics is not a mechanics to be used for nano scale. So all the results which many people did, including Jane Reddy, number of problems, single tubes and double tube, this, that, nano tube, everything is wrong. Let me tell you, openly say that everything is totally wrong, and they have nothing to do with. So now beyond this, I think nanoparticle. I mean, first of all, I think these people are, these days people are using also particle methods for small size. So that is one approach. Other one is your what is that called? The other approach is molecular dynamics. Now, molecular dynamics, what is happening? Molecular dynamics has been developed, but most of the people who are using at the moment from mechanics area, from our area, they have no knowledge about molecular dynamics. They are using only the software as a black box.
Yes.
Now, that is also very, very dangerous, We must know molecular dynamics from fundamentals. Then only we can really understand what's happening.
Yes, sir. Yes. That I understand. Yes, sir.
So this is what is my observation.
That is why I just want to know that what is your observation or suggestion that these days people are blindly just using that equation into the finite element, or the courses that are given in finite element just describing the element, but for the point of structural mechanics or the physics point of view, the number of things are lacking, means not available in proper manner.
Yes, physics part is lacking in most of the, even in research. Even in research, people are using blindly. But even in industry, it is very dangerous, because designs are failing because of non-understanding of finite elements. Many designs, even done by, your great what is that Bangalore company, international company, design. GE, yes. They use finite elements. Their main software is Abacus for all the plastic components, for all the and most of the people, because my student Marur was there. You must have heard his name, Marur. S. Marur. He was there as a manager, and he used to say, "Sir, what is happening is these new young boys and girls who are there, they have not gone through finite element course, and they are producing results which are unreliable. They are non-converged results, and most of the designs are getting based on those. So, and many have even in that company, many designs did later on. So they became very, very, jittery about it. why failure is occurring. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The proper means base is required. Then only. Sir, thank you very much. So yesterday I missed your talk. Then I said today I will attend your talk definitely. So I have attended your sessions, and it is very delightful and very means I would like to say that informative. Like you have taught like a story kind of thing. So generally when we go at too much mathematics, then we lost the interest. But you have explained the thing so nicely. So thank you very much, sir.
thank you very much. So how is Guwahati? I
Sir,
think you
it's
are
fine.
you are organizing a conference there, na? International conference.
ACFMS, sir. Asian
When
Conference on
when
Advanced Mechanics.
when is that?
Sir, this is next year, December.
Next year. Hopefully next year we can all participate. Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because
Oh,
it should be physical, not online.
yes, sir. We are planning for physical only. We feel that by the next year it will be over, I think.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will just quickly. There is some time. I will continue with my lecture that I gave yesterday. Just let me see where is that. Yes. Introduction. PPT. Yes. Let's see. Am I still sharing? Am I still on share?
Yes, sir.
I'm there. So I can now open the file. Let us see. Something is coming on the screen.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible, but now you need to go on the PPT mode.
It is getting loaded. Just hold on. So can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yes. I have already covered yesterday quite a bit. So 1 degree freedom sorry, this spring I explained to you that P equal to K times D, and how the two spring, if you do it in a classical manner, that is how stiffness method used to be taught earlier, and when we started, this is what we do: 1 degree of freedom at a time, and then we can superimpose the problem, and then we used to do. But then this method will become very tedious if the degrees of freedom increase. It was a single degree, 3 degree of problem. So 3 times I have to solve this. If there is a 10 degree, 10 times I have to solve this, and then superpose, and then I will get this K matrix. And there is an alternative method. This alternative method is nothing but you divide this into all the elements separately, and I have shown you how it is to be divided. You divide the element and also draw the free body diagram of each node separated from the element. See, there is a difference between element and node. This is a total thing, but then when I is calling element does not include the node. Node must be cut and separated at every. So please introduce a cut here on the left side, right side, and similarly. So that I have shown, and yesterday I showed you that yes, this way I can write down the element matrix for the each one separately, which is of a lower size, 2 by 2 I can have. But then the actual matrix is 3. Our aim is how to get the 3 by 3 matrix for the entire structure. And there I explained that concept of continuity. That means the local displacements have to be equated to the global displacement, and also equilibrium. You have to take equilibrium at the node. So these were two concepts, that continuity and equilibrium at the nodal forces. This was the due to nodal equilibrium. So this relationship must be kept in mind. Then only you can develop this. So, and then increase the size of 2 by 2 to 3 by 3 by addition of 0 rows and 0 columns. So that is what I have explained here, how to increase the 0 rows and 0 column. And then I got the same thing. So this is nothing but, in nutshell, this is the finite element method. This is what is second alternative procedure, is that element wise computation. is nothing but finite element method. But it was not known until very late, until because this was done, we never used to follow before finite element came so far. So we used to do it by stiffness method, that previous old method. But then this approach is much simpler. We could get it. Then I have explained, I think I explained yesterday also this, that if there is a two spring, so both are like this, and again you do it, and then equilibrium, and then this is nothing but the important thing is we get a concept here that elemental K can be summed over. First of all, you increase the size of the element, and then you can sum it, and then you will get the total K. And similarly, elemental force, you increase its size and then make the equilibrium, and then it can be nothing but your P load. So both force vector, nodal force vector, and nodal stiffness matrices can be obtained by summation of elemental properties. So this is the advantage of finite element approach. Just 1 minute. Let me take a call. Hello. Yes. Which one? Pradeep? Integrated microsystem. What is this integrated microsystem? Yes. Yes, I am working in this field. So you want some advice? What is? We are using software. Yes. We but we also develop our own research. Mill. Okay, sorry. So up to here I explained. Then now axial rod, it can be from spring, you can go to the axial rod, the same concept. There is nothing except that this has become elastic and having a E and L, length. So stiffness, again we can do by the same approach and find out the force displacement relation for this. And it can be obtained that K will be replaced by A by L. It can be derived, very easily. It is there given in any elementary book, and you can derive also. And the stiffness matrix for this is A by L minus A by L, and this is force vector. This is for two noded. So it is a direct method. Now this, whatever I have done so far, it is called direct method. I told you right in the beginning, there are three methods. One is direct method, other one is energy method or weighted residual, energy method or variational method, and third one is weighted residual method. Now this is direct method. Now direct method works very well for one-dimensional element. For all the framed structure, for all the truss, for all the beam column, direct method can be used. But the moment you have a continuum element, like a plane stress problem or a plate bending problem or a shell problem, then the direct method will not work. You have to go for variational method, and where we will use energy minimization or virtual work principle. So this is what I wanted to tell you. And there, for example, I have used the same rod and subjected to two nodal forces, two nodal displacement. And I have added one extra thing here, because in the previous case rod was weightless. Now the weight, or it is a load which is subjected, which is along the length of the rod, because it is a rod. Rod means all loads must be applied along the length of the bar. So there is a P here. P is a function of a small px which is there, and this function can be given, any function can be given. Now at any point there is a displacement ux. Ux can be written in terms of u1 and u2 to relate ux to nodal forces. This is the first job of finite element method, and this is done by a simple method. For example, I will explain through this the concept of so for example, it is a linear element. So I'm assuming a linear variation of u in this. And what is a linear function? A polynomial a plus bx defines me, but then a and b both are unknown. So how to find out a and b? By using the boundary condition. Boundary condition are what? At x equal to 0, u equal to u1. At x equal to L, u equal to u2. So this is what these two boundary conditions I satisfy, and then find out the value of a and b. And if you write the value of a and b, x can be written like this. Ux finally can be written product of u1 and u2 you separate. I mean, I will not go into details. And if you separate u1 and u2 nodal values, then in between you will find that this is what? 1 minus x by L, 1 by x by L. Now, if you plot 1 minus x by L, that is the product of nodal value 1, and this is the multiplier of nodal. X equal to 0, it is 1, and x equal to L, it is 0, and this one is just opposite. X equal to 0, it is 0, and x. So this multiplier is, now we denote this by n1 and this by n2, and we call this, the name shape function was given by Zienkiewicz. He called it shape function. He said, oh, this looks like a very simple. You take a rod, a straight rod, and then lift this one end of the rod, and whatever shape you get, it is a shape function. Similarly, so the nodal one means you lift node 1 unit, and then whatever shape is there, that is the shape function of node 1. And similarly, you lift the node 2, and whatever shape comes, that is your node, shape function. So this was called shape function. Mathematicians call this basis function. Mathematicians, they call it basis function. Basis function. So there is no difference between basis, or because they are not concerned with physics of the problem. They want to solve the problem mathematically. Anyway, they call it. Anyway, mathematicians enter into finite element much after engineers had already invented it. Okay. So the contribution of mathematician in finite element is almost zero. They may be doing research, but research of no relevance. So U now can be written is n1 u1 into n2 u2, and n1 and n2 both are functions of x. So this is the standard form now. That means any function can be written in terms of nodal values. Now here we have taken since only 2 nodes, so it is like this. If I had taken 3 node, 1, 2, 3, one node in the center also, I would have got n1 u1 plus n2 u2 plus n3 u2. And then my shape function would have been, and there are 3 nodes, lift 1, make it 0, 2, and third 0, and lift the rod. So it will be a curved second degree curve, going 0 here and then going below, and then 0 here and lifted by 1 here. Similarly, center one you lift, so it will be quadratic curve like this. And similarly, the third one will be like this. So what I'm saying, this concept was appealing to people. And I must say that Al never developed this method. He was not involved. But because of his concept, after he learnt it from Clough, who was the originator, after he learnt it, he propagated this much more and made it popular to scientists and engineers throughout the world. So it is his, and all these things, and the book, the first book that he wrote, all these things were given quickly, and they have become standards now. I mean, at least all of us study from those notations, so they have become standard. So this matrix can be written N1, U1. So this is one way of writing. I can write the same thing in matrix form, N1, N2, and then U1, U2. This matrix, I call it N matrix. This matrix I call nodal displacement D matrix. So you can always be written as N times D. N will be a function. This is called shape function matrix. And this process is called discretization. This process, because now you are writing a continuous function which is a function of X, continuous function, in terms of nodal values which are discrete values, by using this N. A multiplier N into discrete values of displacement, they can be written to describe a continuous function. So this is process is discretization, and this is a approximate process. So it will lead to discretization error. So discretization. So now let us say this. Now I say let U hat approximate U. Let us say approximate value of U is U hat. So there will be error, actual error. What is discretization error? U hat minus approximate minus exact value. So this is the discretization error which you must be aware of, and you must say that yes, finite element is not exact, but it is approximate. So although you are doing, see this restatement, for example, is strain equal to du by dx. This is exact. But the moment you will be replacing U exact with U hat. Now U hat, if you say, so then this is approximate. This is approximate. Now this one is approximate. Now U hat can be written like this. And then finally, I can write this one, derivative L. This is called derivative. It is denoted by L. This matrix is N, and this is by discrete displacement, nodal displacement, L and D. And if you multiply L into N, you will get what is called B matrix, because if you multiply B by nodal values, that gives me strain. So it is called strain matrix, and strain matrix is like this. And that is what. Now everything is approximate. If displacement is approximate, strain also is approximate by using this. Then constitutive relation. Constitutive relation means sigma. It is a simple problem of axial deformation. So this is only one component will come, is sigma x. And in general, I can write it like sigma into E matrix, total 6 by 6 matrix into strain. Then I use total potential energy principle. I find out the energy. Using describing this, I find out there is no energy. Energy is total potential energy is always expressed as strain energy minus work done by external forces. This. And if you minimize this, you get what is this by through minimization, and that gives you virtual work principle, that delta E equal to delta W. So we have established already U equal to ND. U, actually it should be U hat. I mean U hat equal to or approximately equal to U is approximately equal to ND. Is strain equal to approximately equal to BD. And this is exact. This is the experimental sigma equal to strain times E. You can call it experimental, also cannot be exact, but then anyway, this is the Hooke's law. So this can be both exact or approximate. And by using this, I find out where is the, what is the matter. Why this is coming? Now. So what is, I find out delta pi. Delta pi, I mean, just by substitution, I think the previous was 26, no? 26, 27 page. So now delta pi is this, and go through the derivation. Please go through this. Every step is clear. take out quantities which are independent of volume. So we have taken D because D is nodal displacement. Nodal displacement independent, so it can be taken outside the integral. So you get this, and finally you get, because this is equal to this, so B transpose EB dV into D minus N transpose P. What does N transpose P does? It transforms the continuous load function into discrete nodal values. What does this do? It transforms the strain energy into discrete energy, and energy is this. And of course, this expression has to be 0. If it is 0, delta pi has to be 0. If you set equal to 0, so either this is 0 or this is 0. Since delta D cannot be 0 because it's the virtual displacement that we have given, so this is 0. Therefore, this bracket has to be 0. And therefore, we get on the next page this. On this page, you get this multiplied by D equal to N transpose P dV, which is nothing but F. We denote this by F and this by K. KD equal to this. I think I must have done. Yes, KD equal to P. Now K is nothing but this, P is nothing but this, and where shape functions are this. And now for a linear element, for a linear rod, I have defined N equal to this, N2 equal to this. So derivative is this, volume is A into dx. Please substitute, you get your K, the standard. Whatever we had done in direct method, we got the same thing by doing this long method. So energy method is a long method, but it has one advantage, that it can be used for complicated continuum structures, continuum problems, which cannot be used. This can be, direct method can be used only for linear elements and which are simpler elements. But energy method can be used systematically for very complicated continuum elements. So that is how first. So earlier, when the finite element started, so for example, uniform, how do you find out load vector? And this is a load vector is N transpose. This is N transpose P into A into dx. And let us say load is uniformly in the element, uniform, P naught is uniform. So I substitute the value P naught, integrate it. So half the load P naught by 2 goes to this node, half the load goes to, so total P naught into L, half the load goes here and half the load goes there. So it gives you, similarly, if you had a triangular load, you can find out that 2/3 will come to node 1 and 1/3 will go to node 2. So these are simple experiments that you can do. And any question? Okay. Next one, I have just explained this. Because this is not, I mean, many books don't have the governing equation for axial rod. Although rod is very popular, first chapter of strength of material is rod. But what is the governing differential equation which describes the behavior of a rod? Just like for a beam, we have the 4th order differential equation. D force W, D force displacement divided by dx for P by EI. P is a uniform distributed load. EI is the stiffness, modulus of velocity into I. So here, axial rod, what is the governing equation? So you have, for one dimensional problem, you have only one stress. So out of 3 equations of equilibrium for 3-dimensional problem, you have only one equation, so d sigma x, and it is a ordinary differential equal to 0. Strain displacement relation is what? Epsilon x du by dx. Constitutive relation is what? So these are the 3 basic relations which must be satisfied for any continuous body. Equilibrium, strain displacement, and constitutive relation forms the basic set of equations to describe any elastic body, any linear elastic. Of course, we have used here linear, so it is any linear elastic body. So this is, we can make use of these 3 equations in order to derive the governing equation. Governing equation is an equation which describes the behavior in terms of the displacement. So somehow you see, using the above relation, sigma x can be written as, substitute the value this here. So E times du by dx. substitute sigma x in the first equation. So I get this. So therefore, I get with E constant. If E is constant, E can be variable also. If E is variable, then you have to. But E constant, we have this. With E constant, we get this E del square u by plus Bx equal to 0. Now let us say Px is the prescribed load per unit length of the rod. B is the body force. Body force means body force is always per unit volume. Bx is unit of body force is per unit volume. Now if Px is the prescribed load per unit length, then Px divided by A is equal to Bx. So please substitute this and you get this, and therefore your governing equation becomes EA times this equal to Px. This is the governing equation for a rod. And you can solve this for various boundary conditions, one end fixed, one end hinge, or one end free, etc. So on adding boundary condition, this becomes a boundary value problem. So actually we always solve a boundary value problem. And in 2 dimensions, the same equation becomes a Poisson equation. So this equation is a Poisson equation in 1 dimension. This is a Poisson equation in 2 dimensions. Our del square phi equal to P that we write. So Poisson equation is a very important equation which describes behavior of many physical systems, both in structures as well as in fluid dynamics, in heat transfer. Now, the most important thing that I wanted to tell you is this. Up to here, it was all structures. First, it was matrix method till we used direct method, direct approach. It used to be called matrix method, and in the conventional way. Now matrix method now can be also taught as a finite element method. Okay, element by element. So there is no need to teach matrix method separately, but it can be a part of finite element method with 1-dimensional element of a truss or a building. Building can be with anywhere, a 3-dimensional body also, 3-dimensional frame also. This method, weighted residual method, is anybody know the history of this method? Is there anyone who can tell me something about the history of this method? How this method got developed? Or whatever is given in the book, blindly just follow. See, up to there it was all structures. So this method was meant only for structures. In the early part, that means up to 1971-72. It started from 1956. 60 became the known as finite element, and then up to 71-72 it was all structures only. So what is this? Who invented this method, or how it became a method? We use Galerkin method. You must have heard about Galerkin weighted residual method. Huh? So there is a name attached to this weighted residual method, Galerkin. Galerkin is from Soviet Union, Russian scientist. He is a professor in Moscow University, Galerkin. So Galerkin was using this method for solving differential equation, approximate solution of differential equation using this. What he used to do for the total domain, whether it is a rod or a plate or a shell or any domain. Of course, mathematicians will not go to shells because shell is too complex for them. Plate problem also is very difficult for the mathematicians, so they will go only to plane stress problem or plane strain problem. So 2-dimensional problem or a heat conduction problem in 2 dimension or 1 dimension. That is what they used to do. So this is weighted residual method was what? How to solve a complicated 2-dimensional problem for the total domain. That means differential equation is there. Differential equation is this, or the in 2-dimension differential equation is this. So what he used to do, he used to say, okay, let there be this is my differential equation for the total domain. Let me assume that u hat approximates actual u. Let us say this is an approximation, so there is an error. Now I'm introducing in the solution. And if you substitute now u hat, there should be u hat here. You substitute u hat, whatever you have assumed, into the governing differential equation. So there should be u hat, there is a mistake here, u hat, then it will not be equal to 0, but it will be some residue in the differential equation. This differential equation residue he used to minimize for the total domain. He used to minimize. So if total domain consists of x1 to x2 in one dimension, so he used to minimize this in a weighted sense, means he will residue multiplied by some weight. He will put and that integral and set that integral equal to 0. He used to say that let this residue be 0 in the integral sense. And that used to give us, so that means if you do this, you get this 0 equal to this for the total domain, and total domain you will get this. Now here you are getting second derivative. Here you are getting p. This is total domain. Don't take it finite element. This is total domain in one dimension. So this form is known as the strong weighted residual statement. This form by Galerkin used to be called strong weighted residual, because in order to evaluate this integral, you need, because second derivative of u is here. Second derivative of u means you will need du by dx continuous, then only I can evaluate this. One derivative less must be continuous. You must have du by dx, not only u and du by dx must be continuous. Then only you can evaluate this in the entire domain. So this form is called C1 form, C1, where you need not only the basic variable, but also its first derivative as continuous. So then Galerkin only, I mean, this is there already in Russian literature. It is there in the Russian literature. Galerkin only is thought of how to reduce the order of derivative here. He said, let us integrate this by parts. So if you integrate this by part, you will get this w, second. This is the first part. This is second part. So first part into integral of second part is this. All are having now u hat, please. There is a mistake here. I think here it is correct. And then x1 to x2. This should also be not x1, x2, but it is x1 here, x2 here, minus derivative of first, the dw by dx into integral of second, this. And of course, this has no problem. This is almost in the, work done by the external load is okay. So this is called weak weighted residual statement. Weak. Why it is called weak? Because now I have reduced the order of derivative on u hat. Now in order to evaluate this integral, I need only u hat continuous. If I assume only a linear function, that will be all right. I need not consider, u as a quadratic. Here you need minimum a quadratic function for u hat, because quadratic will become linear and linear will become constant. So that can be evaluated. But here you can just do linear. So he introduced this weak form. So it is the weak form that is used. Normally we use for our computation, because this is much simpler. I mean, this is advantageous to all of us. And this can be written, of course, here is w into p1. And this is called EA times du by dx is nothing but p. So w, this one, and this one, this one. Now this quantity is nothing but the axial force. AE times du by dx is nothing but the differential equation, axial force at the section. So up to here, I can do this. I have not introduced finite element. He used to do in the normal way all this. He will take a step function. Of course, in those days they were not step function. It was a polynomial. He will take polynomial, substitute it, and do it, and then get it. Write down the two equations at two nodes, and then write them into matrix form. And then matrix form means it will give you this A by L finally. And finally, you are getting nothing but this is the standard that we got it directly, K times D and P. So thus we can, the discrete governing equation also, but this is for the total domain we used to do. Galerkin was doing this for the total domain. There was no concept of finite element. There was no concept of discretization. We are doing it for the total domain. Now, Zienkiewicz, there was a so I have done it, but there is no, as far as computation goes, there is no difference between element and total domain. But what I am saying, the history I am saying. So he asked one of his students who came for PhD, his name is B. Nath, Indian. Zienkiewicz had many Indian students. B. Nath, he was a British citizen, B. Nath, and he asked that he gave him a problem. Until then, everybody had done only structures problem. He gave him a problem one day. Nath, you solve a problem of heat conduction in solids using finite element. Now it was quite new. Heat conduction is governed by equation, second order governing equation. Heat conduction similar to the second order in multidimensional. Or one dimension it will be like this only. Now, B. Nath he started reading papers and books, and he found that there was hardly how to make finite element for equation, because in structures it was the discretization of the domain. It was a physical concept that this is my structure and I am discretizing this. Now here in heat conduction, I have no domain. I have a problem. I mean, heat is flowing from one end to another, but then it is governed by a equation, second order governing equation, ordinary or partial differential del square phi equal to P, Poisson equation. So how to apply finite element for a equation? This came as a stumbling block. How to use finite element for solving a governing differential equation. This concept was not there until then, until 1972. Now this man, B. Nath, he could not find the answer. 4 months, 6 months spent. Then one day, Zienkiewicz came to know that there is a scientist who is working in Soviet Union. His name is Galerkin. And he used some method of solving differential equation in total domain. Then he got some papers of his, Galerkin papers translated into English. And then both of them studied those papers. Now it was based upon integral था ना, सब कुछ तो इंटीग्रल से ही कर रहे थे, इंटीग्रल टोटल डोमेन. So Sienkiewicz got the idea. Oh, this is an integral method, so it is very much suitable to energy. Energy was what? Total domain energy is equal to summation of individual element energy. You are discretizing and writing down the energy of each element separately by integral. So total integral is also equal to summation of smaller part integral. Number of smaller part element integral. So he converted this approach into finite element to solve heat conduction problem. And that is how he wrote his thesis and got his PhD. But Zienkiewicz was very, very strict. He said, Nath, you have not got the idea. You go and you have done some examples, that is all right, but a paper will not be in your name. Okay? I will not give you a credit for a paper. You got your thesis, you get your PhD, and you have solved some problem using finite element heat conduction problem in a body. Now we have got a new idea that this method can be extended to any problem which is governed by a governing differential equation. And that can be heat conduction, it can be fluid flow, it can be electromagnetic flow. I mean, chemistry, there are so many equations. Physics, there are so many governing equations. So it can be So that opened the door for finite element to be used for non-structural problem. And there is a paper by Y.K. Chung and Zinkiewicz and Y.K. Chung. Can you please locate that paper in second or third chapter of Zinkiewicz book? It is there. Finite element method for heat conduction problem. In the reference book, it is there. Zinkiewicz third edition, even third edition, it is there. It will be there. That paper. So he wrote a paper and sent it to ASME. Huh?
నేను అందరికి ఇచ్చినాక నేను ఈయన చూడు ఎవరు నాకు గుర్తులేదు మీరేమో ఎక్కడెక్కడ ఉన్నారు అడుగు
Mrs. Kumari,
Yes, sir.
I'm not able to locate that paper, but it is there in Zinkiewicz book, and there are two authors. Two authors are there, Zinkiewicz and Y.K. Chung, his first PhD student, Y.K. Chung. Although he worked on different things, but this paper, in writing this paper, he helped him, so he has put his name. And the title is for heat conduction, something. And the paper journal name is Engineer, the Engineer. Nobody knows, it is not a technical journal name. Okay? So
Yes.
actually, can you locate it somewhere? Anybody?
I will try.
Huh?
I will try.
Okay, you try it and then tomorrow or you give the students that paper. So that is the landmark paper, but he sent it to ASME for publication. It was rejected. That the method that you are subscribing is does not follow proper rules and this and that, because the reviewer did not follow the method. He sent it to ASCE, engineering mechanics. There also it was rejected, and he got frustrated. So that we are giving a method, we have also got solution, and this is not being accepted. So what he did, just like if you get frustrated, so he sent it to a commercial journal like this. This was Engineer is a commercial bulletin in Britain, the Engineer. And he asked them to print it. Of course, they will print it very happily, and just to record that he has done this method. Okay, and you will not know this method opened the door for non-structural application. So the original paper is by Zinkiewicz and Y.K. Chung, and people must read that paper. It is a very simple paper for solving heat conduction problem using weighted residual, and since it is an integral formulation, so Zinkiewicz said if it is integral, I can always evaluate integral element by element, and there is no need to evaluate total domain. So I can do it by integral in a simple subdomains, and then I can add all the integral to get the total, and that is how he got it. So I would like to thank you all, and I will stop here, and I have given you a history of development. Please give that reference, because
Sure,
that
sir.
is a landmark. That is a landmark paper, and not many students or teachers know about it, and they just blindly take weighted residual method and start teaching. Okay.
I will share with everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful lecture.
No,
I have
not.
also learned in depth about the history of the FEM that I have not learned as yet, but in last 2 days I have learned it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Anyway, as long as it helps all of you to some extent, it is good. So anytime I am available. Huh? Okay. So thank you
Yes,
very
yes.
much. And if you need my help or anywhere, you let me know. Huh? Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. That was some details about the history of finite element analysis.
Now you.
So Should we start our next session?
Yes.
Actually, I think HS Mali sir left the meeting. Let me call sir.
Also contact.
Okay. I will call her. Are you calling him or I will call him?
No, ma'am. Jay is calling, sir.
Okay, then it's okay. Hello.